The Day My Dad Came Home, Those Tables Turned, Volume 3, written by author Jennifer Crenshaw, narrated by Randy Niles. Dedication. I would like to dedicate Volume 3 to my mentor, my friend, and my brother forever and ever in life. We lost you in 2021, and my world is still devastated. I will hold all life's teachings and mentorship that you taught me in the back corridor, and on the day I receive my Juris Doctorate, I will lift the degree to the sky and thank you. You were the first person to teach me how to smoke a cigar, and when we lost you, I had my first book signing at your cigar bar to honor you. I remember saying in my speech, if it were not for you, I would not have gone to law school and fulfilled my purpose in life to help the wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted. Your leadership helped me turn the situation around and use it to my advantage instead of focusing on the negative situation. Do something about it positively to help others. I pray that you and Kim are reunited and are having the time of your life in heaven. One could only hope to possess a love so great and literally out of this world. But it's all in God's plan. Salute to you, Roy Skeeter Johnson III. I miss you and love you forever. Fly high, brother. Thank you. Semper Fi. Preface. When I first began writing The Day My Dad Came Home, Volume 3, Those Tables Turned, on September 26, 2023, my daughter's birthday, my goal was to complete writing by October 15, 2023, and I placed a long prayer cloth over my bathroom door to shield me from unseen forces of darkness while I slept, and I continued to pray. I felt something, and it laid heavy on my spirit as if something was coming, but I did not know what. I asked God to cover and protect me as I wrote this volume, because I knew writing it meant I had to again go back in time and address the very people who harmed us. Exposure of what they had done to me, to my father, my family, brought exposure to me for calling them out. This meant they would once again try to harm me, and I knew I opened the door to even more spiritual warfare just to tell this story. But it had to be done. I was releasing everything that happened to me in 2021, but as always, I went further than I have ever gone before. Because of the things you will read that I experienced in 2021 and how it was the gateway to me coming full circle with what was trying to kill me, even if it meant I would kill myself by any means necessary. I write in the past as I always have. And as I write, I encounter and feel everything that happened to me during that time frame, and it's always very real. I didn't want to revisit 2021. I'd fought many demons to save myself physically, spiritually, and mentally. I was terrified most times. And during that time, I could not rest out of fear of being killed in my sleep by an unknown force. The morning I began to write Volume 3, the entire right side of my face began to swell, and by mid-morning, I could not see out of my right eye. I went to the hospital and was diagnosed with an abscess of my tooth and was told I may become septic. I had no idea what that meant to me, as I also had never experienced it before. The doctors did not keep me in the hospital, but gave me intravenous antibiotics and several prescriptions and said, if it gets worse, to come back to the hospital. After the first emergency room visit, every day for the next 5 days, I attempted to write Volume 3. And every day, as soon as I began to type, I became gravely ill. I questioned it daily, and I continued to go back and forth to the hospital as my condition worsened. On the third day, the abscess ruptured, and I began to swallow the poison, which made me, of course, sicker. I found out later that I wasn't supposed to swallow it, as it was poison to my body. I could not drink, eat, or sleep out of fear of swallowing the sepsis. I grew weaker and remained bound to my bed, only to get up for necessities and to drive myself back and to the hospital. As I stayed in the hospital emergency room, daily the doctors continued to give me multiple antibiotics, both intravenous and prescriptions, but would not admit me because my vitals were always good. Throughout the entire process, my vital signs never mimicked my illness, which made the doctors question the true origin of my sudden illness. So, why was I so sick? I became allergic to some of the antibiotics, and my entire lip and face began to swell even more. As I looked in the mirror, I really thought my face and lip were going to crack, and I wasn't getting any better. It was as if my face was completely deformed, and I didn't even recognize myself. Or my mom when I sent her the picture. I was all alone since I had moved back to Atlanta. I had moved back to Atlanta to restore myself and function on my own and prepare for law school. Although it was not until next year, I wanted to work on my own independence and getting me back together after the devastation I'd endured since the beginning of this case and this story. I began to pray and ask God to heal me because I knew this was a trick of the enemy to distract me from writing this story. I don't normally get sick in any capacity, and although this may have had a medical basis, I knew it wasn't that. It was spiritual, and it was trying once again to stop me from writing this book. It never failed any time. I began to write a volume for this book series. I am met with overwhelming spiritual warfare, unnecessary stress, delays, abnormal behaviors of people involved, and all-out chaos. But this time was different. My body was under attack, and it was all coming out through my mouth. I was going through a cleansing, and for God to use me for His purpose of writing this book series to help people. It was the only way. He must clean me completely out, all the poison, all the toxins within me, all the pain, hurt that remained. I had to be cleansed to get rid of it because I could not continue to let it sit inside of me and do nothing about it. Every book I have ever written was also a form of cleansing for me. It released me from the trauma I endured and allowed me to heal and move on. But as I said, Volume 3 was a totally different beast and almost took me out. I couldn't eat for about 2 weeks and lost weight quickly. I was so weak, but daily I continued to gain strength and again attempted to write this book. I'm not going to lie to you. I was terrified to try again. I feared that I would receive worse than what I already went through the first time. But on the 3rd week and the 6th time writing Volume 3, this happened. The only way I can describe it, it was my brain functions and speech functions were impaired, and I couldn't write. I was so disoriented, and I couldn't sleep and woke up every 2 hours. I would continuously, in a circular motion, get up, lay back down, only to get right back up and change clothes to lay back down. I changed clothes repeatedly and knew no reason why I was changing clothes just to stay at home. My home was a wreck and I was lost and alone. In multiple conversations, I was speaking to my best friends as they checked on me, and I was trying to communicate, but only the last part of each sentence came out, and they urged me to go back to the hospital again. And I did, only to be told I was given too many antibiotics, and my brain functions were going to take some time to go back to normal. This was clearly a distraction. Then I received a visit from Ghost, and I knew something was trying to stop me. He came with this lavish $300 dinner and asked me to write this book. Ghost and I have had a very toxic relationship in which I had left several times, but he always came back, and this time was no different. He came in with all the lies as I accused him of this woman called Forehead. I had been asking questions about this woman since March, and it was always denial of this woman and that she was a fan who had low self-esteem. She had been married for 35 years and divorced one and was a nervous wreck, all while chasing him. And he did not want her. She had this big house and was trying to convince him to stay with her, as she would change her entire house just for him. She did seem thirsty to me, and I call her forehead, not need, bad body, and dentures, as I saw her chase him all around his page. He told me everything that glitters ain't gold, and every king that wears a crown ain't a man. I said, if you say so, Ghost, as he continuously denied this woman. I never expected him to own up to her, as he would never admit to anyone with me. We went through this the entire time we were together. When he sent me the address and told me to meet with him at this lavish restaurant in Jonesboro, although I was swollen and still sick, I would not have missed that dinner for the world. He bought us a $150 bottle of vodka. No, I don't drink much, but it was the thought of this man doing all of this. He had a lot to make up for as we had begun talking again in August of this year. But he had so much hurt to fix and lies to change. We planned for him to come on December 1st to stay for 45 days to get the book written. He would pay my bills while he lived there, and this was once again the beginning of us. We went back to my house, reminisced, as he enjoyed the new house, made love, and we went to sleep. I was in heaven, and I really thought he had changed. He got up around 3 a.m. for California. I gave him the AirPods I bought him for Father's Day, and he was gone. I got sick again. I went back to the hospital and was told I still had sepsis, and although they could not give me any more antibiotics intravenously, I could finish the prescriptions I already had. I texted Ghost and told him I was back in the ER. When I got home the following morning from the hospital, I looked at my phone and realized Ghost had not called or texted back to check on me. I went to Facebook and was looking at the stories, and Ghost popped up, singing with some woman in the back of him. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. As I struggled to see who it was because her back was to the camera, it was Forehead, and I stared and cried. The very woman he had just called a business connection, and there was nothing there within 24 hours before. But here's the kicker of the whole matter. At dinner he said, "You do realize I have never met this woman, right? In life?" He said, "I told you she was chasing me. She is far too big for me. There could be only business between us," and left me in the middle of the night and went to Alabama and met her. This man destroyed me, broke me down completely emotionally, and further distracted me, and I didn't want to write or anything else. I was sick and heartbroken at the same time, and the only thing I wanted to do was feel better. I spent the last week before I began to write Volume 3 trying to understand the lies and the confusion of it all. I was just trying to make sense, but I couldn't. Finally, after many arguments, I left Ghost, and I declined to write his book as he continued to deny Forehead. I didn't trust him, and didn't want my name associated to all his lies. He was the biggest con, and no good for me at all. I knew he was sent by the enemy, and I had had enough of the lies and insults of the women he chose as new supply. But I do know he has a type because all his ex-wives had bad bodies and looked stank with their butts on their backs. So, I guess Forehead fit the bill, and not me. Oh well, he needed a fool, and I wasn't her. Somebody that needed a man. I didn't. Someone that would take his just to get or keep a man I couldn't. And somewhere to stay so he could continuously use, and he knew I wasn't going for any of that. I was loyal as they come, but one rule, don't ever lie to me. I told him it would be more profitable for me to write about him than for him. I will continue this story in Volume 4 as there is so much more to tell, as I will complete his story. I do believe what I went through with Ghost this time was also a part of my cleansing process too. God was removing every toxic thing I had within my body, and He needed to remove this part of my life because He was no good for me, for anybody. I wish I could say it would be my last time with Ghost. After I got over the heartbreak and the brain impairment, I finally wrote Volume 3. And as you are reading it, you will be completely in shock of what I endured in 2021. But just know that this was the breakthrough I needed and had been searching for a very long time. I had finally beat who or what was trying to kill me. I fought many demons in Volume 3, both mentally and physically. I succeeded with help of intercessors and people who were both of God. And This began to make the difference. It was God, instead of the spiritual workers and root workers, who I went to for help to remove the torment I had grown accustomed to in my life. When you get to the point where you have gotten used to supernatural things harming you, it is when you have succumbed to the pain and the tricks of the devil. I wasn't raised that way, and I knew that a change needed to come. It is because I fought that I am alive today to write the story, and I will write it to the end to warn people of the unknown evil that may lurk in your home, at your jobs, and even in you. My goal is that you will not succumb or must deal with anything I've gone through. That is my prayer and hope for each of you.